Today, a new survey shows Americans' inflation expectations are at an 8-year high. How could that affect prices down the road? House Democrats unveil details of their tax plan. It involves multiple tax hikes for corporations and wealthy individuals. And chaos at the headquarters of China's second largest property developer. Investors want their money back. What happened? That and much more coming up at NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. Americans expect inflation to rise much faster than wages over the next 3 years. In a new survey by the New York Federal Reserve, respondents predicted prices to rise over 5% in the next year and 4% a year for the next 3 years. Food is expected to rise nearly 8% and rent around 10% over the next 12 months alone. Economists keep a close eye on inflation expectations because consumers tend to act differently if they think prices will go up in the future. People might start stockpiling goods to avoid higher future prices. That just adds to the inflationary pressures. Some people also demand higher wages to offset the rising costs. According to the survey, Americans expect income to increase by 3% over the next 12 months. So joining us to discuss how farmers are faring during this period of rapid inflation, rising prices across the country, is Georgia's Commissioner of Agriculture, Gary Black. Commissioner, pleasure to have you on the show. We see food prices rising for farmers, but I assume their input costs and all different types of costs are rising for them too. How are they faring?
That's a very interesting point you made. You remember that farmers are also consumers. We serve consumers, but they too are consumers, so the impact at the grocery store affects them just as it would anyone else. We have seen elevation in all of our inputs, certainly increased prices with respect to equipment. We had really soaring rates on fertilizers the last couple of years. This year in particular, many times when you see rising commodity prices, you also see rising input prices, but we're thankful, really thank the Lord this year that our crop is in great shape. Cotton and peanut are in a much better shape than from a price standpoint than we've seen in the last couple of years. So hopefully we will play a little catch up with these soaring input prices, but it is something to be concerned about for sure.
I'm delighted to hear. You mentioned machinery. We had a manufacturer from Minnesota on the show last week. He told us that there's kind of shortages. You know, they're trying to build stuff. They're building heating products, cooling products. Maybe they're missing a certain piece they can't get their hands on. Are you seeing, is it hard to get finished machinery, repair parts, stuff like this?
Absolutely. I think there's a twofold issue there. One of those is just simply a labor issue of having enough people to work on the manufacturing lines. I know Kubota has a strong presence in my hometown, about 3,000 jobs, and they have well over into three figures of 100, 200 openings almost all the time. So that's an issue. The logistics system on the supply chain is certainly an issue when it comes to, we're seeing it in food, but we're also seeing it all throughout different aspects of manufacturing. Really a crunch on the number of people driving trucks at the right time, which is another big concern. But it's funny that you mentioned tractor. I have a 73 horsepower Kubota tractor. It has been in the shop 10 days for just routine maintenance. And that is an issue just because of a couple of normal things that you would have in stock. They simply don't have them.
Wow, incredible. On the labor shortage, we've been covering the unemployment, of course, all year since the pandemic began. I think we were all waiting to see whether the removal of the enhanced unemployment benefits would actually encourage people to go back to work. There was different narratives, different debates on both sides. What do you think, from speaking to people on the ground, has it had any effect?
Well, absolutely, it's had an effect on virtually every business. And if we went into the pandemic, if you think about this, think about how many times have you been behind an 18-wheel trailer with a truck with a 53-foot trailer, and on the back of that trailer, it doesn't matter who the trucking line is, it says 1-800-CALL, we need drivers. Almost everybody does. That's been an issue in truck driving for a long time. But I have a firm belief in this, that we should have a rate, businesses should compete. They should compete with oversight, but I'm absolutely certain that businesses should not compete with the federal government, who's been simply paying people to stay home. That is impacting the lives of every large business, small business, family business, everyone. We've got to get everybody back to work. We're surely working on that here in Georgia as a theme. But to be competitive as a nation, we need everyone back to work, and their incentives. Oh my goodness! I'm hearing hourly wages going up. That's going to absolutely contribute to inflation. There's no doubt about that. But the labor shortage issue is impacting us up and down the supply chain. I hope we can find a solution soon.
Commissioner Gary Black. Markets were pretty mixed today. S&P 500, though, snapping a 5-day losing streak, ending slightly higher, gained about 10 points, 0.25%. The Dow also advanced, rising 262 points, 0.75%. But the Nasdaq was pulled back by tech stocks, dropping 10 points today. Lumber futures are down today. They've been down, I think, over 60% since their peak in May. It's been a roller coaster ride. And to talk about it, we're delighted to be joined by a fourth-generation forest landowner from southeast Georgia, Joe Hopkins. Joe, pleasure to have you on the show. Hopkins is also the president of the Forest Landowners Foundation. Mr. Hopkins, you don't sell the lumber directly, but you provide the trees or the timber that will be processed into this lumber. Why do you think we've seen the demand tapering off recently?
I'm not sure whether they have caught up some production. I know some mills have increased production. We've had a couple of new mills come online, and they all seek to constantly working to improve their efficiency. And I think that's part of it. I think there was a little slowdown in new houses for a stretch there, and probably just a combination of all of that.
Where do you think it will go from here? You think this is a more normal level? How was it during the pandemic when we saw this big uptick in demand? Was it surprising for you?
It was for us. As I have said before, unfortunately, we did not get the benefit of that rise in price that the mills did. There's such a huge oversupply of wood in the market today, particularly in the southeastern United States, that as the demand went up, there was still an oversupply of wood, so the price did not go up with it. It's the basic supply and demand type situation. But here recently, because of the demand staying strong and a lot of wet weather, a lot of issues, that has caused a bit of a spike in the price for us.
You mentioned transit and moving things. How about for you guys, for your business specifically? How has this affected you? It's a lack of truckers primarily, am I correct?
Trucking is an issue. Trucking is an issue, I think, with every business, but it's particularly an issue in our business because so much of it is dependent that we've got to get the wood to the mill. And the only way to get it there is trucks. There's no alternative. So
do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, or is it improving at all?
Right now, we're able to keep up in this area with the trucking needs, but the cost has gone up. Salaries have gone up as demand for truck drivers. If you drive anywhere, you see on the back of almost every semi, truck drivers needed, phone number. Everybody needs CDL truck drivers right now. There's a tremendous demand for CDL truck drivers. And so they're able to, again, command a little better price, and that causes the cost of the freight to go up, and that particularly affects the landowner.
Joe Hopkins. And Democrat Senator Joe Manchin says he's not going to vote for the Democrats' $3.5 trillion spending bill. He says it's too expensive, and he's concerned about the national debt. He also says Congress has already released about $5 trillion to help Americans, and that money will continue to go out till next year.
And a lot of the help that we put out there is still there, and it's going to run clear until next year, 2022. What's the urgency? What's the urgency that we have? It's not the same urgency that we have with the American Rescue Plan.
The $3.5 trillion bill contains initiatives on climate, social welfare, and other areas. But Manchin has said he could back the $1.5 trillion version of the bill. Meanwhile, Democrats are finding ways to pay for much of Biden's expansion of the social safety net. They propose increasing the corporate tax rate to 26.5% for America's corporates, would also impose an extra tax on people who make over $5 million a year. NTD's Olin Richards has the details.
House Democrats have unveiled their proposed tax increases, which include a corporate rate hike from 21% to 26.5%, as well as tax hikes aimed at the wealthy.
The bulk of this is going to be felt by those large national, multinational corporations. So if you're a large corporation, right, and your net income is, say 100 million, maybe even billions of dollars, right? That 5.5% increase between 21% and 26.5%, that's a hefty chunk of change.
Logan Alec is the founder of Money Done Right, a website dedicated to finance-related content. Logan says while large corporations will get hit hard, smaller C corporations may see their taxes go down a bit. Democrats want to raise trillions of dollars to pay their $3.5 trillion spending plan, which includes fighting climate change and poverty.
Biden has proposed really unprecedented levels of federal spending. The president wants to do a new infrastructure bill. He wants to put in place a whole range of new sort of social spending policies like paid family leave and enhanced child tax credits.
Adam Schuster is the Senior Director of Budget and Tax Research at the Illinois Policy Institute. He says the Democrats will undermine their own goals by raising the corporate tax rate because it's one of the most economically harmful ways to raise revenue.
The likelihood of the tax plan passing really depends on moderate Democrats in the Senate and in particular Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin has frequently disagreed with his fellow Democrats. He recently tweeted, "Instead of rushing to spend trillions on new government programs and additional stimulus funding, Congress should hit a strategic pause on the budget reconciliation legislation." The committee plans to vote on the proposals this week. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And 3 former Wells Fargo executives are on trial. It's over their alleged roles in a scandal involving phony bank accounts. The top U.S. banking regulator brought civil charges against them last year. The OCC alleging that the executives failed to carry out their duties properly and contributed to systemic sales practices misconduct. That was between 2002 and 2016. The alleged misconduct includes issuing millions of unauthorized accounts and credit cards, transferring customer funds without consent, and accessing personal customer account information without authorization. The OCC has demanded the 3 former executives pay a total of nearly $19 million to settle the matter, but all 3 are fighting the charges. The hearings are set to run through November. And the state of Arizona is selling off its Unilever bonds after Ben&Jerry's sales ban in Israel. The state has already sold off $93 million of the company's bonds. Now it's planning to sell the remaining $50 million. Arizona is one of the 35 states that has anti-boycott laws. It's the first to divest from Unilever. An Arizona law says for any company that boycotts Israel, government agencies are barred from holding investments in them or doing more than $100,000 worth of business with them. Ben&Jerry's is owned by London-based Unilever. Unilever, though, says the ice cream maker has its own independent board and makes its own decision on its social mission. And disgruntled investors of China's second largest property developer, Evergrande, are protesting. They're demanding their money back. Nearly 300 real estate companies reported they filed for bankruptcy already this year in China. If Evergrande joins the list, could send shockwaves through China's economy. NTD's Ellen Lee reports.
Chaotic scenes at the headquarters of China's Evergrande Group. Roughly 100 investors crowded the lobby on Monday, chanting, "Give us our money back." Evergrande, once China's biggest property developer, is also the world's most debt-saddled property developer, according to the New York Times. Now, many investors and buyers are airing their frustration.
We sold everything we had, both of those apartments, so that we could buy a property with Evergrande because of you. I expected tens of millions of yuan, but I haven't even received an invoice. This has been going on since May.
Du Liang, the general manager of Evergrande's wealth management division, reportedly remained in the lobby overnight, with protesters taking turns to air their grievances. The company has liabilities of more than $300 billion, an amount that is higher than Finland's GDP in 2020. This debt is partly a result of Evergrande's highly risky business model. It would borrow loans to buy land, then develop and sell homes at lower margins for fast turnover. Evergrande has been on life support for months, but this time Beijing is not stepping in. Chinese regulators want to fix the property sector's bad habit of borrowing too much. And with China's crackdown turning its focus onto the real estate market, nearly 300 real estate companies declared bankruptcy this year. That's according to Chinese news media The Time Weekly. Evergrande owes foreign investors more than $7 billion in bond payments for just next year. Now George Soros warns that an Evergrande default could cause China's economy to crash. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
And the British government has abandoned plans to introduce COVID passports in England. It'll also take steps to end some of its pandemic emergency powers.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will formally set out on Tuesday his plans to manage the crisis in the winter months. Johnson's under fire from some in his Conservative Party for raising taxes to fix a health and social care crisis. Health Minister Sajid Javid said on Sunday that he did not anticipate more lockdowns and that the COVID vaccine passports would not be introduced in England. Under the plan, people would have had to use the passes to prove their vaccination status to enter some venues such as nightclubs. The government will depend instead on vaccines and testing to defend the public. Javid also told the BBC he was not, quote, anticipating any more lockdowns, but would not take the measure off the table, and that he wanted to end PCR tests for travellers as soon as possible. The Nighttime Industries Association trade body, which represents the nightlife business, welcomed the U-turn.
And social media app TikTok is in the spotlight for promoting sex and drug videos to minors. It's according to a new report by the Wall Street Journal, and NTD's Phil Zhou has the details.
The most downloaded app since 2020 is TikTok. It's currently #1 on Apple's App Store entertainment section. It's ahead of Hulu, HBO Max, and even Netflix. But there's an issue. Minors aged 13 to 15 are being shown sex and drug videos endlessly.
TikTok sort of feeds it up to you and learns what you're interested in based on the amount of time you spend on different videos.
That's what happened to the Wall Street Journal. To investigate TikTok's algorithm, it set up dozens of fake accounts, only to start getting a tsunami of adult videos.
Like, TikTok is the wild, wild west.
Sam Sorbo is a kids education influencer. She is the host of Schools Out on Epoch TV.
I do think that TikTok is perhaps more dangerous than many of the other social media apps.
One account registered as a 13-year-old was shown 600 videos on drug use, from cocaine to meth. Other accounts saw countless videos promoting sex shops and pornography sites.
Social media might need to start having similar regulations to see what minors can and cannot see.
TikTok says protecting minors is important. Users under 18 need parental consent to use the app, according to its terms of service.
You know, they're using it as fun and games when there are people who are actively using TikTok to target your children.
NTD News spoke to rising TikTok star Savannah Smiles. Her recent video got over 300,000 views.
It's just a quick, fun way to entertain yourself. I think it exposes you to a lot more different people. You get to see people on your Explore page that you wouldn't normally see, so it's really cool in that aspect.
She has not been exposed to sex and drug videos, but says TikTokers should be cautious.
It's the 21st century and it's out there, so I think the best thing to do as parents is just to educate them on what's out there.
Her mom, Donna, agrees.
As a TikTok mom, I am concerned about our kids, but I think it starts at home. Like, we have to have those conversations with our children and ensure that they are equipped to make good choices.
So what can happen to kids if they keep watching videos on sex and drugs?
They can get physically hurt, certainly psychologically hurt, induced to practice all of these sex acts or to start using drugs, or even there are some about eating disorders, to start doing all of the things that they think are cool because they see it on TikTok.
TikTok says it removed 90 million videos in the second half of last year, but it's getting hard to keep up. Thousands of videos are getting uploaded every minute. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
Still to come this evening. You ever slept in a giant potato? Well, now's your chance. Find out how you can win a trip to this Idaho unique hotel. And a teenage pilot attempts to break the world record as the youngest woman to fly solo around the world. She's hoping to inspire girls and young women. That and more after this short break.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Welcome back. Disney is betting big on theaters. The company's once again giving theaters exclusive access to new film releases instead of debuting them on its streaming service first. The decision is for all the movies coming out for the rest of the year. Disney is still fast-tracking releases to its streaming service, though most movies will be on the big screen for 45 days before they hit Disney+. The move shows Disney is optimistic about movie theater audiences returning after Marvel's Shang-Chi broke Labor Day box office records. The company is still battling a lawsuit from Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson. She says debuting her film in theaters and Disney Plus at the same time robbed her of a portion of her salary contracted to be based off box office receipts. Keep you updated. And if you haven't slept inside of a giant potato, now is your chance. The big Idaho Potato Hotel is now open in Boise. The 6-ton potato is made of steel, plaster, and concrete. It's actually been around since 2012, touring the country, but it's recently been transformed into a cozy Airbnb. Includes everything you need for a night's stay, including a custom-made bed, a refrigerator. And to celebrate the big spud, McAllister's Deli is launching a sweepstakes for a free 4-day stay at the Potato Hotel. To enter, all you have to do is head to McAllistersDeli.com. The winner will also get a ride on the big Idaho potato truck. That's a semi-trailer that carries a 4-ton fiberglass potato. And the UK's largest supermarket group, Tesco, is testing reusable packaging. They're testing it on 88 products, including laundry detergent, food, and drinks. NTD's Patrick Hayden has more.
Tesco's on Monday launched refill options for food, drink, household and beauty products in reusable packaging. It's part of the supermarket's strategy to cut plastic waste. Supermarket chains and consumer groups are increasingly testing refills to help cut single-use plastics. Tesco has teamed up with global reusable packaging platform Loop for 10 of its stores in East England. Customers will be able to buy products in reusable packaging that can then be returned to stores when finished. Loop then cleans the packaging for reuse. Founder and CEO of Loop, Tom Zaki, says to reassure customers on hygiene concerns, we are partnered with Ecolab, a global leader in hygiene and infection prevention solutions. Tesco Chief Executive Ken Murphy said, we'll learn as much as we can from this to inform our future packaging plans. Tesco says the prices of the contents of each item are comparable to the original. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And the teen pilot is trying to break the world record as the youngest woman to fly solo around the world. NTD's Christina Kim reports.
19-year-old pilot Zara Rutherford landed in Costa Rica in her Shark Ultralight, the world's fastest microlight aircraft. She wants to become the youngest woman to fly around the world alone.
Flying into Costa Rica was amazing. It's a really beautiful country. It's a shame I can't stay longer. I wish I could. But yeah, it was interesting. I couldn't talk to anyone on the radio for quite a long time, actually, because there was a mountain in the way.
She started her journey around the world from Belgium on August 18th. The British-Belgian pilot hopes her voyage will encourage more girls and women to study and work in STEM and spark girls' interest in aviation.
So when I was younger, one thing that discouraged me was not seeing other women flying or not seeing other women in STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So I'm hoping by what I can do is kind of, answering their questions and, being there and having them see me fly.
Rutherford wants to win the title from Shasta Ways, who became the youngest woman to fly solo around the world at 30. The youngest male record holder, Mason Andrews, was 18 years old when he made the journey. Rutherford hopes to set an example.
They can think, oh look, there's a girl flying, I can do that too. That's what I'm trying to achieve.
Rutherford's route will take about 3 months with stops in 52 countries, including Greenland, China, and Nicaragua, where she will stay with local families or in hotels. Christina Kim, NTD News.
As the latest business updates for today, but you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. It's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.